Hey, welcome to Authentic Influence. This is Anfernee Chansamooth, and we're doing a special episode this time around. We're doing a live coaching call, and the topic, well, we'll get to the topic in a moment, but I have an impression it has something to do with pricing and how to sell your service. So if that's something that you're wanting some help with, this conversation would give you some insight. So I'm going to introduce my guest, someone who's bravely volunteered to jump on here and share a bit about her business. So we're talking today with Ericka Bates, who is can be found on talk-virtual.com. Ericka helps busy event producers who want to host attention-grabbing virtual summits and make money while creating great content that they can repurpose. And she's a virtual summit strategist, and I'll let her explain what that all means. So let's bring Ericka on. Let's go. Hey, welcome to the show, Ericka.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Now, you've been on before as you've joined our previous podcast party. So for those who listened to that episode, they would have heard you on there briefly. But let's dig into your business and talk about, okay, well, let's start with the title. So what is a virtual summit strategist?
So I help you with your strategies as far as how you want your tickets to be set up. How do you want your event to go? What kind of what kind of event model do you want to pursue?
All right. And so, excuse me, and I mentioned in the intro that you help busy event producers who want to host virtual summits. Okay. And they want to make money from those. They want to increase their impact, all sorts of things. So what are the challenges that a client would be facing that would want them to reach out to you?
Well, I talked to a guy on my show just last Thursday, and he says you can't make money hosting events. I was like, wow, because he totally hurt my feelings because that's not true. I've heard that producing events can be a daunting task, and they don't want to learn new tech. And speaker wrangling is the worst. I've heard all of that. But it doesn't have to be so bad. Automation can be your friend. I have been told that automation is my friend, and they don't want to learn it, but I can set that up.
Okay, cool. So I wanted to get to that, and I'm glad you brought that up because there is. So we'll come back to that. We just said there about automation being your friend and not so much their friend. It's particularly if they're tech challenged. Saying, "Hey, go learn some tools," could be a block for a lot of people, right? So. Whereas people like you and I were like, oh, let's give me all the tools and then we'll invest hours in learning these things. But I know there's a world of people out there who really don't want to go and do that. And they have other priorities, which is fair, right? So let's, and I wonder if they're even the right people to be talking to you. So we'll come back to that. But let's start with just your business goal, all right? So I want you to walk away from this conversation with something that's useful for you and your business. Something we're gonna definitely have an action step. So it's not just let's talk for 30 minutes and feel good. It has to be okay. There's something you're going to be implement, and I'm going to keep you accountable to that in the next 30 days. So let's start with what's your 90-day business goal? What would you like to be different about your business? What's the biggest priority for you over the next 90 days?
Well, right now I'm setting up an event for myself. I've always host or helped others host their own events, so now I'm doing it for myself. Beyond the show, beyond the mastermind, those for me are mini events, but this is going to be like a 2-day event. So I'm trying to do things to build up to that event in September.
What would make that event a win for you? What's the measure of success?
So I get the speakers I want. They give the okay to give the training to other event producers. I get 500 to 1,000 event producers to show up, take the training, and pay the ticket price, and hopefully join the mastermind.
Okay, so there's a couple of things here. All right, how much are you pricing the event at, or you still, or give me a range if you don't know the actual amount?
I am not sure, but I was told to price it at $1,497, and I am not sure about that.
Okay. And then your mastermind, what does that start at?
10,000.
10K. Okay. Um, there's two things we're going to talk about here. One is for the 1497, what do they get?
So they get to join the event for 2 days. And have you heard of the profit pyramid or the value ladder?
Yes.
Okay,
So
so
break it
you're
down.
going.
Yeah. So break down how that looks like, how you're envisioning that pyramid or that ladder. What does it look like?
So we're going to start at the base, and we're going to talk. We have speakers for each part of the pyramid, and to help you up level your event business, we're going to introduce you to these speakers who are going to train you in these categories. Let's say one of the speakers is going to teach you about lead magnets. So, what's the best converting lead magnet? How often do you put out your lead magnet? Where are you putting your lead magnet? If it's not converting, is it you? Is it the lead magnet? Or if you're not putting it out enough, stuff like that. And then we'll go up from there.
So then, if they wanted to, so that in the actual 2 day event, do they get that training, or are you saying they get? So what's the next step on the ladder?
So we have other speakers about your goals for your event business. How do your goals fit into your sales funnels? When is it time to hire? And what positions do you need to hire for right now? Let's see. I have 6 speakers, and it's three per day. So I'm trying to figure out which one it is. Oh, let's see. When is it time to partner? Or how do you find your partners, and who makes a good partner
Okay.
for your business?
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is you have different, um, let's say, categories or pathways within the event. So depending on what the, the 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 event manager or the event producer is wanting, they can join, whatever. And then I guess the 1497, they would get recording of the entire summit, so they can view
Yes.
that at any time. So you're basically selling. To me, that sounds like a digital product, right? So that becomes a training product, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and then um, so there's a couple of things that come to my mind with this. One is going to be, okay, are there any events already on the market that do something similar at that price point or higher, that event producers are paying for right now?
I have seen events where there is one trainer and one topic, and they go all day, and it's a little more. I've seen those for close to 2,000.
Okay. Do you know? Do you have any clients or people in your network who have actually paid for those events?
Yes.
You have. Okay. Have you had conversations with them to understand why they invested that money and what was their takeaway? What I guess is just understanding, doing some research around it, and understanding what they didn't like about the event that would have made it more valuable for them.
Okay. So what I've heard was it was a good event. They didn't say much about the event, but it was around a product and how to use the product. What they didn't like is that the product wasn't finished yet.
Okay. Okay. So it sounds to me, yes, like some kind of product related event, which is different to
Mhm.
what you're offering because you're more yours is more around knowledge, and practical, uh, steps, to address certain challenges. Okay. I almost wonder, now this is very different to, like, I'm looking at your website, and I wanted to come back to, like, your business goal. Okay. So from here, it sounds like the goal of this event, is to sell, when you say 500, so you're looking at selling 500 seats at 1497, and I know the pricing is still to be confirmed, right? So if we were to calculate that, right, 497 and 500, now we're looking at $748,000 from one event would be the so let's say that's your revenue from this. 748 around 748K, right? I'm not going to give the full number here, but that would be the target revenue from that 2-day event. But for you to deliver that, it doesn't take you 2 days. How long in terms of planning and execution does it actually take to get all the partners, to get all set up a ticketing system, all those things, and certainly deliver the product? So how much time would that take you to make that happen?
So it doesn't take long since I already know how to use the programs. I'm using Book Like a Boss to gather my speakers, but I actually gathered my speakers before I set that up. But I do want this to be reoccurring. So every 3 months. So I'll have it set up for the next time, December 29th and 30th. So
right. But let's not disregard everything you've invested in terms of learning all these skills, right? How long has it taken you to get to this point to actually learn everything about virtual summits, getting speakers, putting on an event, delivering the product, all of that stuff? Like, how long has it taken you to get to this point?
So when I first got started, I was told no, I couldn't host events at all. They didn't want me to rent their venue. I couldn't rent a space. Any idea I had, it was good enough for them, but they didn't need me to do it. So that's how I got to be online. I found Hey Summit through AppSumo. They had a boot camp, and that's how I learned how to use that platform. And that's also how I learned how to host events. I hosted my first event through them, and hosting my own show, I talk to event producers once a week, and they tell me how they host their events. So it's been about a little over a year now.
Okay, cool. And to date, how much have you sold in terms of your service? Because I know you offer a service, which is on your site here. So you have, I think there's 3 different packages. So virtual summit packages, and how often are you, like, how much revenue are you bringing in the business on a monthly basis?
Not that much.
Okay.
Not that much.
Yep. What's the goal? Like, what's the target? I mean, I can see, okay, if you were to pull this off and you were able to bring in 748K, that's amazing, right? From one event. I mean, that's a lot more than a lot of small businesses are doing. Like, there's different milestones typically for startup businesses, right? And not to say, and certainly there are people who are doing that kind of revenue, which is awesome. My question is, we're going from not much per month to a big jump in sales, right? I almost feel like there could be an intermediate step to get there, right? Like, it's as someone who's been in business for over 7 years, to go from 0 to 100K is typically the first milestone, right? And that's annually, right? I'm not talking about per month or per event. I'm talking about annually. Now, of course, this is all dependent upon your audience and how much money they've got to invest. These sort of things. If you're working with event producers that work in corporations and sort of medium-sized businesses, and they've got budgets to for them, it's like, oh, it's typical to pay $2,000 for an event, right? Like, for them, that's not an issue, right? And if they're the type of people you're talking to on a weekly basis on your show, that's awesome. So you're already building that audience, right? And so the key has to be then, is this event going to deliver, help them solve a particular challenge that they've got? And I almost feel one way you could go about this is really going back to all the guests you've had on your show, right? And say, do something like, I'm thinking about hosting a 2-day event in this timeline, right? And what would be, the top 1 or 3 things that you would want, challenges that you're currently going through that you will want solved, right? Or even what's the biggest challenge you've got right now around these events that you're doing that you want help with, okay? And we'll make sure that this event addresses that, right? So I assume you would have done that to some degree to arrive at these are the different pathways.
Mhm.
Awesome. All right. So
So, I love AppSumo.
yeah.
In AppSumo, I got a group converter, and you're allowed to put in your Facebook group questions that you want answered. And one of
Mm,
those questions were, what are the problems you're having with hosting your events? So I have a list,
okay.
and it all for me, it fits into that profit pyramid.
Okay.
And
So
I
what
can
are the
answer
top
those
three?
questions.
What are the top three challenges? Are they the ones you spoke about earlier?
Yes.
Okay. Um, of those three, how are people trying to address those challenges currently?
Um, the people who say that it's a daunting task, they want somebody else to do it.
Yeah.
And for a while, I have tried to spend time telling them that automation is a great thing and that everybody should have it. And they just say they don't want to learn a new tool. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So let's make some notes as we're going through this, right? So there's people who describe the challenging and they struggle with tools or tech, right?
Mhm.
Um, and that prevents them from hosting events. Is that what the issue is? Why is that a problem for them?
That's what a few of them have told me. Another said that yeah, that you don't make money from events, and I don't think that's true at all. So there is ways, even if you're having a free event and you're just using affiliate links.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, that's another problem. So we've got struggling with tech, don't make money from events, and there was a third. What's the third one?
No, it's escaping me.
No, that's okay. Okay.
I wish my desktop was working so I can pull it up.
So if they're event producers, I mean, if that's their role,
Hmm.
they must be putting on events. I mean, that's their job. Like that's something that is, so why would struggling with tech stop them? Because then they'd be out of the job. So I'm trying to understand what's the real issue from their
So
perspective.
when I first started this whole talk virtual thing, I was talking to business coaches and I was talking to event planners. And my husband pointed out to me that anybody can be anything on the internet. You can just call yourself whatever. And most of those people did not know what automation was. They didn't know what I was talking about when I said event platforms. They didn't know what I was talking about when I said event wrappers. No clue, because they didn't do this every day.
Okay, so let's go. Event. So event producers. You mentioned a couple of things here. So you're talking about business coaches. You're talking about who else are these event producers? What are their typical titles?
What are the different components of event producers?
Well, who? When you say, I want to understand. When you say event producer, are you talking about like someone who works, say, at a Fortune 500 company and they're running events for their company, like a software company, or are you talking about uh, like a business coach who you know doesn't have a team really? It could be a one person operation, or it could be maybe they have some a VA and they've got some other people supporting them. What size of yeah, just give me a sort of understanding of who's the ideal person to show up at your event and who can pay something like 14.97, invest that to join the event, right? So what's yeah, I'm trying to
Okay,
understand who's your ideal buyer for your services and for your summit.
so when I host my show, I do a lot of tech talk and walkthroughs. And the thought behind that was, if people think this is too hard, they would ask me for help. But it turns out I got a lot of messages from event producers, people who produce events for other people, telling me that they learn stuff and they know what I'm talking about. So that's why I thought I could host this workshop for them.
Yeah, so those people who are already producing events for other people, I would assume they already know that they're already using tools to do that,
Yes,
right? So they would not fall under the struggling with tech situation.
they're not, but they're kind of leaving stuff out. It's like I talked to someone the other day who's been using Hey Summit since it came out, and she just found out that there was a comment button.
Okay. Um, okay, so let's go who, challenge, and then solution, right? Um, so they're an event producer. They're already producing events. So for those people who are already producing events, now you're saying they're leaving stuff out. Is that a big concern for them? Like if they don't know about commenting things missing and these sort of things. Like what are they more concerned about? What's their biggest thing? Are they running their own businesses, Ericka, or are they
Yes.
working for other companies?
So they're their own business and they hire their services out to other people. And what I can tell you is like if you want comments on your event page, that can be an upsell.
Hmm. So I almost found like if they're event producers, they run to running their own business and they hire their services out. They're kind of
Mhm.
doing what you. I mean, they're almost, I mean, competitors to what you do. Like it's
They're very, it's very similar. Yes.
right. Um,
Um, Go ahead.
yeah, yeah. And so, are they the ideal people for what you provide as a service, right? So, if you said to me that okay, you support business coaches in running virtual events, all right,
Hmm.
um, I can tell you a few challenges business coaches have because being one myself, time, right, money, and maybe it's network could be an issue if they don't have the right people in their network to, whether it's speakers, whether it's attendees, right? So maybe they don't have the audience, right?
Hmm.
Um, and and of course that's going to depend on the size of their business, right? If they're in the first 3 years of their business, it's very different to someone who's been running for 10 years and has is making $2 million a year. Like it's a different type of business. So the stage of business is important as well, right? Um, Now you mentioned that one of the challenges was around this automation struggle. Heck, that could be a challenge with the business coach. I could see that going there, right? Um, that don't make money with events, that could be an issue for a business coach, right? Um,
Hmm.
for the event producers, I can see time being a challenge for them, right? We've got the next event happening in 60 days, or it's scheduled to be in 60 days, or we want to do an event once a month or once a quarter. And time could be an issue, team could be an issue. Maybe they don't have a large enough team
Hmm.
um, to get everything done because as you and I know, there's a lot of different components to putting on an event. Um, so uh, then in their mind, the challenge is not so much automation, right? So for them, it's automation to me is a solution to a
Hmm.
problem, right? So if you came along and said, okay, well, we could automate some of this stuff. Same with the business coaches, right? So that could be the thing. Now that will then present the challenge, which is, well, I'm not really good at tech, okay, but that could be a challenge. That could already be a challenge that's already present for that individual. Um, I yeah, I probably encourage you to dig further into who is ideal for your service and your membership, right? Your mastermind. What do you want the core product or service to be for your business, right? Um,
The mastermind.
you want the mastermind, okay? So if that's a core product, right?
Yeah, for
Yeah,
all of last year, I feel like, I'm not sure, but I feel like I put a lot of effort into trying to work with business coaches, and they did not understand me. And I think I had a hard time explaining what automation was. And
yeah,
when the last time you were on my show, you told me to make a video, and that's what I did. And
yeah.
that did open a lot of windows, a lot of doors for other people to understand what I was trying to say, because all I could think of with when I'm explaining automation is you set this thing up once and you
Mm.
let it go and it runs by itself. And it depends on what you're using it for, it will run by itself. For me, I love that about automation, but nobody had a clue what I was talking about.
Yeah, because it's I think it's too far removed from what they're trying to achieve, Like for them, it's because you're in it and you're doing it every day and you're playing with these tools. So for you've seen the advantage of what the automation can do, right? So for me, when I speak about, say, repurpose the tool, Harney's tool, I don't go and say, hey, um, go repurpose your content. If I'm speaking to someone who's like a founder of a you know of a professional service, maybe they're an accountant, maybe whatever it may be, and I say, hey, go repurpose your content using this thing called repurpose, it makes no sense to them because it's so far removed from what they're looking at. Like for them, their goal is, how do I get more clients, right? Or how do I put out content more consistently because I struggle with time and I don't like to write and I don't like to produce videos, right? So these are that's in their language, right? Then I would say, okay, well, have you heard of this concept called content repurposing, right? And then I have to educate them, right? So similar to you, there's a stage where you're gonna have to educate people on what is automation, and that's probably a video. If you haven't already created that, that's probably one of your next videos to create. Is, what is marketing automation, or what are automation tools and what do they do, or how can event managers or event producers leverage automation to save time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's really what they want, isn't it? It's I need to save time and I need to get things done quicker, right? So now let's come back to, I want to bring it back to the business level because that's where we want to operate here. So you said to me, the core product is Mastermind, 10K investment. Is that annually? Is that per month? What's the, how does that
Annual.
work? Annual?
Annual.
Okay. Okay, so that's good. So then you could offer that as a monthly payment, right?
Yeah.
Which would work out to be less than $1,000 a month, right? Um, Whatever it may
Oh,
be.
also those quarterly events, if you're part of the mastermind, you will get to go to those quarterly events for free.
Okay. Um, this is good. All right. So
So once a month in the mastermind, we bring in speakers to do a talk, a training. Yeah, so it's also a mini event just with that core group.
yeah. And how many, ideally, how many members do you want in the first 90
20.
days? What would be like a great starting point, right? How many members do you want to sort of kick off with?
20.
Okay. All right. So, and that will give you your 20, that's a 20K revenue per month. We're not talking about all your expenses because that's going to factor in to all of this, right? So you're going to have to work out, well, how much does it cost you, time wise, energy wise, tools, because you're paying for subscriptions, these sort of things, marketing, right? All these things have a cost to it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's cool, right? So 20 members, right? at 1K or 10K annual. Awesome. Have you, so typically with when we're launching like a mastermind group, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's the promise of the mastermind? What's the challenge that the mastermind solves?
So I tell the group that I have now, I tell them that we should be hosting more events. I would like a minimum of every 3 months. We check on how landing pages for event planners are coming along. Are they useful? Are they interesting? Are they eye-catching? We talk about how the events went. It's like a debrief, how your events went when you posted them. What was great about it? What was that can be changed for the next time? Um, yeah. So,
What?
sorry, go ahead.
So you, no, that's okay. So you've given me kind of what they get.
Mm-hmm.
The question I'm trying to understand is, what's the challenge? Why would they join this mastermind? What's going on for them that they're like, I need this, right? So what's the challenge?
So to better their event business, the debriefs really help people understand what they can do for their next event and hearing it from
So,
others. Because sometimes it's really hard to see yourself, but if you see your peers, you just all of a sudden know the answer.
yeah.
So, but
So the
sometimes it's
part,
just really hard to see yourself.
okay. So the part that's missing for me in the communication here is, what are the pain points, right? So someone wants to we typically buy things, like we typically go to the doctor when there's a pain. You know, we tend to buy pain more than prevention, right? Like that's just how we are as human beings. So we're like, oh, okay, my foot's not working, I better go see a specialist, right? But if you had taken care of your foot, 6 months in advance, you probably didn't need to do that. But
Mhm.
humans being humans, we tend to go for the pain, right? So the pain kind of moves us to, okay. Now I like the promise here, which is a better event business. I'd like more detail around that. What does that mean? You're making more revenue. You're growing your event business. You're doubling your event business every 12 months. Like, if we can get very clear around what is the vision, the 12-month vision, right, for the person,
Mhm.
then it helps them go, yes, I want that, right? So if you said to your kids, or if I said to my niece, do you want to go to Disneyland or do you want to go to Starbucks, right? Um, so you very quickly what the answer is going to be, because the vision in their mind is that's going to be much more fun and that's what I want, right? Um, and so this is kind of where you want to get to with your mastermind, is like, what's the Disney World vision for them? Like, I want to have an event business that's doing what in the next 12 months, right?
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
I get a lot about audience engagement, um, audience getting the audience engagement, and getting sponsors.
For what purpose? So getting more audience engagement and getting more sponsors, what does that give them?
More money.
Okay. So let's talk about the time element, right? How much time do they want to be investing in their business? How much time are they already spending in the business? And how much time do they really want to be spending in the business?
Okay. So they're spending over 40 hours in their business. And what we're trying to do is lower that a little bit. Like get your automation so precise that you don't need to do that much.
All right. Okay. And then there's probably something around not making the money you want from your events, right?
Mhm.
Um, so you can dig into that. I mean, that's a very clear pain. So talk money, time. How about is there anything else that's important to an event producer apart from money and time? Like what else? What's on their minds? What are they thinking about? And what stage in life are they at, Ericka? Are they sort of around our age? Are they much older? Are they younger? Where are they in their career?
I have a few that are over 60,
Okay.
and I have a few that are in their 40s.
Okay. So now they have different motivations, right? So someone who's over 60, what's their motivation for hosting these events and doing all of this?
They're trying to get a message out.
Okay. So it might be around impact, might be around purpose, right? Message, right? So for someone in their 40s, maybe it's about income, maybe it's about creating something that gives them a better life.
Mhm.
Um, Maybe it's to help their kids go through college, like whatever it is at that stage. What's your sense? What is it about? What's the motivation for them? Why are they doing it?
So there's a lot of them in there that's already millionaires, and they're
Oh,
just
really?
doing it, yeah, because they just want to do this. A lot of them are focused on their message.
Okay. Um, so if they're already millionaires, uh, then it's not about the money,
Mm,
or is it about the money? Is it the one, like, what is it? So if it's about message,
mhm.
okay. To me, you're gonna have to like work out. Okay, to me, there's commonality around message, right? Um, are they feeling like their message isn't getting out there enough? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Um,
Um, um, I'm sure she wouldn't mind, but one woman, her message was about telling 35-year-olds about menopause and what you can do about it right now.
okay.
So yeah, that was very important for her to get that message out. One guy is talking about clean water and why it's important, and he works with whales. He's a
Mm-hmm.
hydrogeologist. And I also think that's very important. He also wants to train younger people to take over his job one day. He says there's not too many younger people interested in clean water. So he wants to get that message out. Yeah. So as there's another one. She works with people who have injuries and can't have much mobility due to scar tissue. She wants to let people know that there's other things besides surgery that you can do about scar tissue and get full mobility back.
Okay, so this is really good stuff. So for me, I'm starting to see a theme of sharing an important message, making a difference, leaving some kind of legacy, a social mission. So to me, it's almost like you're speaking to social people who have a social impact agenda. Like for them, right? It's that's the thing that's driving them. It's like we want to reach more people and make a bigger impact. And I think and somewhere in there for some people it's going to be yes, and also make money doing this, right?
Yeah.
And so that's where I think you come back to what's the promise, and I would say yes, they want a better event business, but really what they really want is to spread their message further and wider, to create to make a bigger difference, right? Um, and leave a legacy, right? So if you're an event producer who wants to do that, right, we can help you with that, right? And then you can get to and through this process, we'll increase your audience engagement. We'll help you we'll find sponsors, generate more income, these sort of things, right? But to me, that's almost like a secondary to the primary, which is this is actually the desire, right?
Yeah.
So if the mastermind was focused around that, and if your messaging was focused around that, now you even said some of these people are millionaires, right?
Yeah.
So then it's around, okay, well, who do you work with? You work with people who are already financially abundant, right? Like you're not working with someone who's struggling at the beginning of their business and they're not making any money, right? Because they wouldn't, first of all, they wouldn't have the funds to pay for your membership anyway, your mastermind, and then secondly, they're just not the right people, right? So you may have content out there because you're putting out a lot of content that they could certainly access for free, and they can sign up for your newsletter and these sort of things. So you can support those people in that way. But we're coming back to the business, right, of what you're doing, and for you to hit your targets, you're going to need to really, really narrow down to this is who I support, right? You've narrowed out business coaches; they're probably not ideal for you. So I would say, well, let's cross them out, right?
They are nice people. They just wanted me to work for free.
Yeah, then that's not your ideal client, and that's fine. That's fair. Okay. Like I said, you could do an article or a video on that is like if you're a business coach, watch this video and this is what you're going to learn, blah blah. And then if you want to go and sign up for my mastermind, you can, whatever. But I would focus more on these event producers who are going after the legacy, right? Who are after the impact, right? Who are already running. What I'd like you to do as an action step would be to go to these people and say how much, excuse me, how much revenue is your business already making has made in the last 12 months, and really understand from each one of these people the size of business. So when you can go very clearly articulate that you help $1 million businesses, or $100,000 or $500,000 businesses, like if you can sort of narrow down to this is who I support, or who this mastermind is for. Because here's another thing: when you have a mastermind, you don't want to have a situation where you have someone who's just starting out in the mastermind. You have someone who's already been in the business for 5 years and is making $1 million a year. Those the conversations aren't going to be as powerful, right? So and the person that's in the you don't want a situation where the person who's been doing really well and is at kind of more advanced, they're going, I'm feeling like I'm here coaching the beginner, like, and that's it's not a unless they really want the mentorship role, that's not really going to work, right? Because they want to be in the mastermind so they can get their results, right? and they want to be around people who can push them further. And usually that means that they got to have people at a similar level or just above them, right? So if you think about, putting these 20 people in a room together, right, they all need to be at a similar level or within, does that make sense?
Yeah. When I was putting this together, the mastermind has actually been together for about 3 years. We've had people come and go.
Yeah.
Before I got the structure, we all sat around Napoleon Hill's mastermind.
Yeah. So been running for 3 years. Have you had any? Have you got a sales page for the mastermind? Because that's not what's on here. This is all like summit.
But it is a book like a boss page. I haven't
Yeah.
too long set it up, so I set it up just like the last week of last month.
Mm-hmm. So what do you want to do about these virtual summit packages? Like, is this still something you want to offer? Or because to me, if that the core product is the mastermind, then I would focus all your attention and promotion on getting people into the mastermind, right? And that needs to focus prime and center, because when you do this thing where you're like, I've got this mastermind, but then I've also got this virtual summit consulting thing, and I've also got this other thing here, people get confused, right? And you're also, what I'd like for you is, let's fill your mastermind, 20 people paying 1K a month, right? You're making 20K a month. That's great. All right. And then now you've got, you can focus all your time and energy on supporting that group, right? Because, the second that those people start getting wins, right? So they've secured their first sponsor. They've reached, they've reached another 1,000 people, with their message. They've whatever they've instead of spending 40 hours per month on their business, they're now doing 30 hours a month or 20 hours a month in their business. So once they get in this, they're reporting back to you. These are kind of the results they're getting, right?
Mm-hmm.
They become very solid case studies, right? And they become evidence that the mastermind works. And so what happens is then they're going to let their people know, oh, hey, I'm part of Ericka's mastermind. If you want some help, this has been really valuable for me. Why don't you come along, right? When there's a spot that's available, right? And it's also easier for you to, direct energy towards that. Does that make sense? Like, what I'm feeling right now is, if I go to this page,
In
or you
Facebook
send me,
Messenger, I sent you the link to the mastermind.
okay. Hold on. We'll have a look at this one. Okay, cool. Now you've said, let's come back to the challenge you when you emailed me for this conversation. You said, okay, people were struggling with jargon. You're talking about automation, RSS feeds, streaming, setting up, and these sort of things. You also said I'm speaking with business coaches. So we're ruling this out. We're saying that you're not speaking with business coaches and you're speaking to event producers, right?
Yeah.
That's a good shift. Okay. Then now this second challenge here, which is, don't lead with these terms, right? Like for me, you would educate people about those terms, but in the conversation, right? We're going to do a quick role play, and I'd like to, and maybe the next just 5 or 10 minutes. Let's pretend that I'm an event producer. I'm running events once every quarter, or that's my plan anyway. And yeah, I'm in that demographic. I want to increase my revenue. I want to make a bigger impact. I've got a strong message that I want to share with the world, and I want to reach the right people, right, with these events. Okay, so take me through. I've just booked a discovery call with you. Take me through that conversation. What would that look like?
So when you book a discovery call, there's like a questionnaire that you would answer, and we would go over that. And one of the first questions is, what's an event, an online event that you went to that you really enjoyed, and do you want to duplicate that for yourself? What was the question?
Yep. So I'll answer that. So CMX ran a summit last year or the year before, and they had, I don't even know how many people signed up. They had a lot of people, like we're talking thousands, and the speakers were high caliber. It ran for, it was a multi-day. I think it ran for a couple of days, and that would be a really great kind of event for me to run.
Okay. So, was it via Zoom, AirMeet? What kind of platform was it on?
None of the ones you just mentioned. I think they had, because I think the platform's called Bevy, because that's the company that. So I don't know. Yeah, I think that's what the platform's called. It seems much more sophisticated than most tools I've seen. Like that because it had things like you could do virtual roundtables, and you could do even a photo booth where you can jump in and like do selfies and things like this. So it was quite. Yeah, I hadn't seen anything like that before, actually.
So, is that a platform you would be interested in using, or would you want something similar to it? And do you have access to it?
Okay, so I'm going to pause right now in this conversation. So this is the discovery conversation, right? So coach hat back on here. You're starting to coach me,
Yeah.
right? And when you're having a discovery call, right, the second you start coaching, right, what happens from the other end is they feel like they're already getting the value. They feel like they're already getting the answers, right? Because if we get down to the technology and we're looking at these things, right, you're very much, your conversation is very much at a logical level, right? Everything's about logically, this is how it works. You're getting into the how of the situation, right? Um, what you haven't talked to me about is uh, what are my challenges? Okay, what is my goal for my business? Right? What's the vision of where I want to be in the next 12 months? Right? Um, so I suggest that you would start the conversation there, right? So if you said to me, and give me an idea of where you want to be in the next 12 months with your business, right? Um, let's try that.
Okay. Anthony, where do you want to be in your business in the next 4 months?
So I would want to, um, so if we're thinking about where my business is right now, I would want to triple the amount of money that I'm making through the business. And I'd like to have an event once a quarter that brings in sales, right? And helps me achieve that target. And also, in terms of my time, I'm doing 40 hours a month in the business. That's just too much time and energy invested. Like I'd like to bring that down. So if I could do it in half the amount of time, that would be amazing.
How do you see Virtual Summit doing that for you?
Okay. All right. So um, yeah, I think it's, for me, it's about growing the audience, right? Getting more potential customers for my business. Also potential partners that I could collaborate with, who could potentially be referral partners. And I do have some products I recommend, so maybe there could be some affiliate commissions based on product recommendations as well that I could use the summit for.
Okay. Yeah. I guess
Okay.
I'm not. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah. Go.
I was gonna say, I guess I'm not familiar with these types of questions because I like to do things. I like to get it done, and I like to do it
And
quickly.
absolutely, absolutely. So here's where we're coming to the challenge, right? Because you're the specialist and you're the technical expert. You like to jump straight there with the client. You go, let's go to that conversation. But what you haven't addressed is the emotional, the desire, right, of the person. And so so when you start off with what are you trying to achieve? What's the business all about? Why are you doing it, right? Now you're getting into, like, I've shared some real things like financial time. If you said, okay, well, if you were able to cut down from 40 hours a month to 30 hours a month, what would you do with that other 10 hours a month? Like, what would you do at that time? And you might discover, oh, actually, I'd spend more time with my wife, and we'd go on some cool trips, and or if I've got kids, I might want to, do some fun things with my kids and take them to school and do stuff with them on the weekend, which is really what it's about for me, right? So now we're getting into the human motivation and the emotional stuff, which is really what drives us, yeah. And so now when I feel as a prospective client that you care because you're asking me these questions about who I am and what are my motivations, right? Instead of jumping straight into let's talk about Hey Summit and all these different tools, right? Because once you go there with me, you've lost me, right? Because then my mind goes into overwhelm because it goes into, oh my gosh, like you're talking about Zoom and these things and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, that's so, but you're not talking about Anthony, human being. You're not
Yeah,
talking about, um,
that's true. As soon as you told me what the goal was, I feel I can run full speed blindfolded and get there.
there you go. Right. Okay. But before you jump into telling me that, all right, where you could go to next would be, okay, well, that's your vision. Great. Awesome. Okay. And you could, uh, dig in a little bit more just to understand more about the vision, right? Okay. What would you be doing differently, right? If we were able to get that in the next 12 months together, right? And then you move into, okay, what's your current situation? Like, what's it look like right now in your business, right? And then I would tell you, I'd go, okay, well, ask me the question, Erica.
What does it look like currently in your business?
Okay, yeah. So right now I'm doing about 40 hours a month. I'm feeling stressed. I'm not making the money I want from my events. I just find it too hard to put on an event because I remember last time I did it was a 4-day summit and I had 4 team members part time or volunteers, and it just was so much. And I was also working my day job full time as well. So it was just by the even before I got to the end of the event, I was already spent, right? And then I didn't make any money from the summit, so I feel like, oh my gosh, what was this really? I mean, I made a little bit of money, but I didn't make nearly what I wanted from it. So it just put a bad taste in my mouth, right? Um, so now you go. So how now that you've heard that, Erica, what's going through your mind, or what are you feeling?
I want to tell you the answers.
Okay, all right. So okay. So before you jump into the answers, you reinstate what you just heard, right? So you go, okay, well, here's what I'm hearing, right? You're spending too much time, too much energy. It's taking you away from the things you really want to do. You don't have the team to do it, right? Is that correct? Yeah. So you're kind of reinstating, right? This is just active listening, and so I go, yeah, absolutely right. Yeah. And this is as you're listening, you're probably taking notes. Like this is what I do. I take notes. Yeah. And you go, okay, is that correct? Great. Okay. Now the next question is the super powerful question, right? The next question is, okay, if 12 months from now this hasn't changed, how would you feel?
I've heard that one before.
Right.
Yeah.
So how do you think I would feel if I was stuck in this space for the next 12 months or 2 years or 5 years?
Yeah.
If you were me, Erica, how would you feel about that? What would your reaction be?
Well, I do think and believe that there's an answer for everything. I do believe that the definition of insanity is repeating the same thing over and expecting a different result. But I do know that there's an answer out there. So
Yeah.
for me, I would keep trying, and I think you would too.
But at which point would you say it's not working and you need to try something different? At which point, you know, would it feel like, in my case, I have a wife who's supporting me through all of this. Like, when does that become too stressful for her, right? To see her partner not being able to achieve the goals that they want to achieve and create the life that they want, and just being buried in the business, right?
Well, I'm
Right?
assuming, and I know you're not supposed to assume, but that's why you came to me because you wanted help.
Okay, there you go. Boom, right? So, um, I think your natural reaction is, oh my god, this stuff is so emotional. Let's not let's try and avoid it and go to the technical, right? But when you can help the client connect to the emotion of it all and where they are, and if they're feeling stuck and they're feeling like I need to move this, um, then it becomes, and then you're the person that says, okay, I get it. You don't want to be in that same spot in the next 12 months. Um, you know, is this of importance to you to make some changes soon, right? And if they come back to you and say, yeah, I don't want to be here in 12 months from now, or 18 months from now, or 2 years from now, right? Um, then you kind of have, you've reached a point with the prospective client where they're like, okay, I just need a solution now. Yeah. And then that's where you can say what what you're wanting to say, which is, okay, well, I have a way to help you out of that. Right.
Mhm.
And we can help you. I'm confident that we can get you there, within, and you need a realistic time frame. Don't promise 6 months. You can't do it in 6 months. Um, but if you can say, well, within 12 months, we can move you, and we might not get you to all the things you want on your checklist, right? But we can certainly save you time, because once you implement the automations, you're going to bring down some of those times already. Money, once you help them with some money strategies for the events, they're going to increase revenue. Okay, excellent. And then impact and audience. So one of the things I said was I want to increase the audience, right? And well, once we implement some of these strategies for audience building, and how to market your events properly, then we can increase that as well for you, right? So
Mhm.
so you would circle back to all those challenges that you wrote down. These were the challenges, and go, okay, for each one of these challenges, right? Here's how I can help you, or how I can help you address these things, right? But when you're doing that, don't go too detailed, right? So I wouldn't go down to we'd implement missing like this tool and blah blah. Like, don't go into all of that, because that just, again, you're bringing them. If they're in an emotional space in that conversation and you pull them to logical, right, you lose them, right? So what you want to do is address emotion with emotion, right? So the way I think about it is, you're talking to your child and your child just fell over and they're crying, right? And you go, well, let me tell you all about missing letter, right? Like, that's not an so you're laughing, right? So uh, how would you naturally respond to a child falling over and crying? What would you do in that scenario? What would you say to them?
I usually say moo
Okay.
because I make fun a lot, and I aggravate him, but he gets
Yeah.
me and he does the same thing to me. But that's us. But I do make sure he's all right.
But beautiful, right? So you've respond to emotion with emotion, and that's okay. That it could be joy, it could be humor, it could be laughter. That's fine. In a discovery call or sales conversation, same thing. You're responding to emotion with emotion. You don't go from emotion to logical. Like, if you said to the child, well, was your leg broken, right? Which is a very logical thing to say, right? If you said it in a funny way, it's different. But if you were like, well, your leg's not broken, so why are you crying, right? So that it doesn't help the situation, does it? So, but if they feel like, oh, you care, here, come here, I'll give you a hug, or whatever, like, tell your jokes. That's fine. So same thing, right? Doesn't matter. Here's the secret to all of this. Doesn't matter whether they're 6 years old, or 60 years old, right? All right. We're still the same. We're still humans. We still want to feel like the other person cares, right?
Mhm.
And so in that conversation, if you went and did the motherly thing and said, okay, well, I'm hearing these are your challenge. Well, we have ways that we can address each of these challenges. Let's talk through those, and you give an idea of how you would do that, right? So you're saying you got 40 hours per month in your business currently, right? Okay, yeah. Well, we have tools or ways to bring that down. Okay, don't go into what the tools are, right? You just stop there. You say you're not making money from events. Well, I've got 3 strategies that we can help you implement, over the next 90 days. That's going to help you increase your income. Stop there. Don't tell them what the strategies are, right? So you're addressing each point without going into, let's start coaching the person and giving all the answers, right? Um, how do you feel about that?
It's really good.
Yeah. Okay. Because now what you've done, I know where you want to get to in the next 12 months. I know where your current blocks and challenges are. We've already discussed an action plan. Here are 3 different things we can do over the next 90 days or 12 months to get you there, right? Okay. Now, then really now at this point, uh, does this sound like something that would work for you? Okay. And
That's
you let
pretty
them
good.
respond. Yeah, you let them respond to the question, right? And this is the same thing that happens when you walk into a doctor's office or your GP and you say, I have a problem, right? Or they ask you, Ericka, what's wrong with you? Right? And you go, oh, I'm feeling this, right? My arm's hurting. And then you go, okay, then they start diagnosing the problem. Okay, what have you been doing? Have you been sleeping wrong? Have you been playing sport? Have you been, what's going on, right? And then once they do that, at the end, once they've done the diagnosis, what do? They go, well, here's the next step, right? You're going to get an injection for this, or you're going to get this pill, or you're going to sleep more, or you're going to eat better, or whatever it is. They give you an action plan, right? And then typically you sign off on that, and you go, okay, right. So this is, in the sales process, you're doing exactly the same thing. You've diagnosed the problem. You're going, here are here's the roadmap on how we're going to address the problem, right? Does that sound good to you? And if you've done that well, they'll go, yeah, okay. And then you say, okay, well, is there anything else you'd like to know at this point in time, right? Why do you think I'm asking that question?
So you can move them to the next step.
Yeah. Okay. And also, by doing that, where am I putting the ownership of the conversation?
In their hands.
Right. Because as the buyer, what do you want most in the buying process?
For them to convert.
No, as the buyer, you're the one who's buying something.
Oh, okay. I want the answer to my problems.
You want the control, don't you? You want to control where you put your money, how you spend the money, right? You want to control, right? People don't like the pushy used car salesperson. Why? Because that person assumes the control. They're like, you need this, buy this now. We're going to give you, they're controlling that conversation the whole time. And you feel like, hey, I've not been involved in that conversation. Like, you just keep pushing this car on me that I don't want, right? Which is a different experience to the salesperson who's like, here's two different models, right? Here's pros and cons of each model, and why don't you test drive both, and then you tell me which one you like, right? That's a very different experience, isn't it? Because now you're feeling like you're the one actually in control, right? What the seller's done is been very intelligent to say, well, I'm not going to push you one way or the other. I'm going to let you decide. Yeah. And so when you're having your discovery call, you're doing the same thing. I'm going to let you decide on what you want to know next. And they go, well, how do we get started? What is the cost, right? Mm-hmm. Or if they don't answer in that way, then you could say, well, would you like to know how what are the next steps from here, right? Mm-hmm. Again, would you like to know, right? And rather than, let me tell you how it all works and let me tell you the price and how much and where you pay right now, right? Now, in a previous interview I did with Deborah Zahn, she's a genius at consulting in the consulting world and helping consultants make more money and free up time, all these things. She said something which is very smart, which is that she advises her clients to never give the price on the discovery conversation, right? Instead, or push for the sale on that discovery. What she recommends is send a summary of the conversation you've had, right? Bullet point, your vision, 12-month vision is this, your current challenges are this, right? Here's the roadmap and how I can help you address these things, right? And then here's the investment, and here's some information about, our Mastermind program, right? Or my proposed solution for this problem, right? And then you may let them book another call to talk about that, right? Or you might just give them some space to evaluate, right? And so there's two ways to go about that, and you can test them. One is to actually run them through the Mastermind and all those things. I think it's too much in that initial discovery conversation. I think it's like they're just getting a feel for who you are, and you're getting a feel for who they are. And if you both walk away from that conversation feeling like, yeah, I think that call went really well. I could see myself working with this person. Yeah. So if and I'd like to learn more, right? So, if you end the call with, hey, would you want me to send you some more information how it all works? pricing, logistics, all that kind of stuff, and they go, yep, excellent, then you do that. Yeah. And it's not a pushy sale. It's like, I'm going to give you information that you need to make a decision. And one thing you need to close off with is, and I'll follow up, right, within 3 days or 2 days, just to see how you're feeling about it, right? So you have to own the follow up, because you can't rely on a client to always come back after you've sent them information. Yeah, because you have to own the follow up, and that's really where a lot of the sales happens, is in that follow up. So, all right, we've covered a lot. I want to just check in with you, Ericka, where you're at, how you're feeling about this conversation. What's been the key takeaway for you?
Match emotion with emotions. Don't go straight into the how, because that can be confusing.
Yeah, right. Because as the expert, the practitioner, it's easy for us to go straight into let's go into solution mode, right? Here's the technology, here's the automation. Let's talk about CRMs. Let's talk about these things. Once you start throwing all that language to these people, RSS feeds, right? Their brain just goes, "What are you talking about?" Right? Why does this even matter to me? That stuff that comes later, right? Like that stuff is once they join the mastermind. Now we get into, let's talk about, okay, each one of these things. Do you want more time? Automation. If you want an RSS feeds, you want a better way to reach audience. We can talk about streaming, right? If you want to grow your audience, get sponsors, whatever. Let's talk about the setup of the event, how that works, right? And we'll do some training around that, right? So that can be in your that stuff should be on your sales page for the mastermind, right? Like each one of those things are a solution to a specific problem, right? And that should be laid out on the sales page. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'm glad I
Yeah.
talked to you now before September, so I can rewrite my sales page.
Awesome. And so now when you're having these event producers on your show and you stop recording and you have a chat with them, so I'm putting on this event and we're going to help people who are wanting to create more impact through the event, build a legacy, maybe grow their team, maybe whatever these things are, have an important message to share, right? And maybe struggling with spending too much time on the events, not making enough money, whatever these things are, is that of interest to you, right? And let them talk about it. Let them tell you what's their biggest challenge with the way they're doing events at the moment, right? And so, okay, cool. Well, how much is that? Now, here's the question. Coming back to just one thing before we wrap up is around the pricing of the product, right? So if you're charging $14.97, and I know it's not confirmed, but if you were going to at that price point, you need to address the objection if there's an objection to that price point. Because the first thing that will happen typically is when you put out a price like that, in their mind they're going, what do I get out of it? Like, what do I get for that amount of money, right? What's the value, right? And so then you need to translate in your sales page or in your conversation with each individual. You need to translate, okay, you're investing $14.97, right? But how much is an hour of your time worth? Okay. And if you're spending, how much time are you spending on your events currently, right? If you're spending 40 hours per month on your events, how much do you charge per hour, or what's your hourly rate or whatever? Get a calculation and go, if we were able to, if you say they were $100 per hour, right? Okay, if we were to save you 10 hours per month, right? That's $1,000 a month that we've saved you in terms of costs. Yeah. And you're paying $14.97, right? And you're going to get these additional bonuses and whatever else, right? Is that worth it to you? So now you're kind of helping them understand on a monetary level what the return on the investment is, right? If you another way to go about it is, if you were to put on an event and you were able to double the amount of sales that you made on the last event, all right, what does that equate to? And they say to you, well, if we were able to do that, then that's going to be another $20,000 in revenue, right? And you go, would you invest $14.97 to generate $20,000, right? That's a logical no-brainer, right? For me, it's like, well, if that's what's going to happen, right, and then you're going to give me some strategy to help me do that, then yes, I would invest in that. Yeah. Um, so you just want to understand the financial implications for each individual, help them understand, right? What's the return on investment on investing into your event? And this is the same for the mastermind, right? If you send me an email saying we've had the great conversation already, the discovery call, you've done your follow up, you say the mastermind is going to be $1,000 per month, right? But in your messaging, you also said, well, your goal, based on our conversation, you wanted to double the amount of sales you made over the next 12 months, right? Now, if you paid, $1,000 a month, but you were generating another $5,000 per month, right? Or per quarter, right? If you paid, $3,000 per quarter and you made 20 grand from that, right? Is that a good return for you? And they go, hell yeah. Okay, great. Join the mastermind, right? So it's right. This is where you're combining the emotion and the logic. See, so you're operating on two levels, right? So um, does that make sense in terms of just the pricing conversation and how to kind of communicate that so then the other person understands what they're really investing in?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
this would be like a video on the landing page,
Yeah, you
or am I
could. You could.
doing them individually?
I would suggest I wouldn't have that conversation as a video. I would actually have that on uh, on a call with people. Like take them like to sell. Maybe start with having a few calls with some people first, like maybe just like
Mhm.
5 people. Have the conversation in a call, and then once you've done that, then you can translate that into a video because now you've had feedback from individuals on, you know, um, so you've had the reactions and you've seen how people react to that, right? Um, the problem with going straight to a video is that you can't anticipate how people respond to the video, right?
Mm.
Because they're not going to, most likely, they're not going to put comments, right, and say, "Oh, I have these questions." But at least if you're speaking to 5 or 10 people about it, and you're like, "Okay, this is this investment. This is um, help. Let me understand, how we can help you get the maximum value from this event, right? Um, and if you're investing this amount of money, what are you hoping to get on the other side?" And then you'll get these answers. Then once you have those answers from these individuals, you can then incorporate that into your video, right? So you can say, "Oh, okay, like here's a few things I've spoken to different people, and they've said these said, oh, if they could achieve this outcome, then this investment is a no-brainer, right?" So it's even better if you can get, you know, what by having those 5 or 10 conversations, record them, and maybe even ask permission to share, bits of those conversations. If people allow you to do that, you can then actually have that as the video on your sales page, right? You can actually have, here's what Margaret thought about this, here's what whatever, and especially if they agree to, signing up for the event, right? For anyone who becomes a buyer, so hey, that was really cool. Do you mind if I share a bit of that? Or if not the actual video, can I quote you what you said, right? Um, it's always powerful when people hear from the other person and not from the person selling the product, right? This is why I'm so big on case studies. But yeah, either way, I would start with just let's get 10 conversations with 10 people who potentially might want to sign up for your 2-day event. Collect feedback. Hopefully, some of those people become buyers, and then from the buyers, you can then, either way, you're going to get good information that you can use to create your video that you put on
Okay.
the sales page. Yeah. And I wouldn't
So
put it like, in terms of your landing page, I wouldn't put it at the top. I'd put that down in the like frequently asked questions, what do I get for my investment? Right. And then that's where you'd have the video. Right. And people who have the question can check it out in the FAQ session. I wouldn't lead with that. Because again, that's a logical conversation. We want to come back to emotion, match emotion, right? What's the event really helping me to do? Right? What are the challenges? And if you highlight, this is what the event helps you to achieve. These are the challenges that event producers typically face. Right? This is how this summit's going to help address those things. Yeah, and this is the investment. Yeah. You've got the landing page structure, so that's fine. Does that help?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, any last thoughts before we end the session?
So I think I will go to my group and I will ask them if they would like to join a mini session, and I will talk to them about the mastermind, and
Yep.
then I will get feedback.
Excellent. Okay, so that's your one key action. When are you going to do that?
Today.
Oh, excellent. All right. So I would like from you just a follow-up email next week, maybe Monday, or whenever you can do that. Just had a chat with my people. This is what came out of that conversation, right? And this is what you're going to do next.
Oh,
Awesome. And of course, you can access the replay of this conversation, so you can go back through. I know there was a lot of stuff there, but for me, yeah, I noticed the key thing for me was, as someone who's logically minded and like solution oriented, it's very easy for us to go there with people and take people there. But when we're talking about sales and generating income and revenue and getting people to buy into our product or service, we have to come back to human with human, what's going on an emotional level for them, right? And avoid all that technical stuff, because as soon as you go in there, it's like, oh my gosh, right? You leave the technical until they made the purchase. That's when it comes into it. Yeah. If you just made that one adjustment, Ericka, you're going to do really well. So, awesome. Okay, thank you for joining us, and thank you for all the honesty and for sharing today. And I know this has been valuable for you.
yeah, it has. I appreciate it.
All right. Awesome. Okay, so everyone, if you're interested in checking out what Ericka's doing and learning more about her upcoming summits, then just head over to talk-virtual.com, or you can find Ericka Bates on LinkedIn. Ericka's got her show happening there every week, and she's all over the socials. So we'll put some links in the show notes so you can connect with her. And of course, if you are interested in getting some coaching yourself, let me know. Just head over to simplecreativemarketing.com/live audit. And in there, you can apply to be a guest on this show and get some business consulting and marketing consulting as well. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Ericka.
All right. Thanks.